and welcome to FinextraTV's 2021 prediction series. I'm Hannah Wallace, and kindly calling into our virtual studio again is Francis Walvik-Joynt from Next. So welcome back, Paul. Thank you very much for calling in.
Hi, thank you. Good to be back.
It's good to have you on. We've got a lot to cover in today's interview. First of all, I want to talk about the demand for digital. We've spoken a lot in the past about how the demand for digital has been changing the way we pay, transact and live our lives for years now. And today we've seen even more of an acceleration as a result of the recent pandemic, of course. So before we move on to your predictions, I think it'd be good to reflect on the year just gone and talk about some of the lessons learnt since we last spoke. And also, can you tell us what companies need to embrace now more than ever before? So by no means a small question, but let's start there.
Okay, let's try to go down that route. I think that first and foremost, I've learned that transparency is really one of the most important things that companies can provide. But also it goes to societies. Interestingly enough, you see a lot of focus on being transparent on what is the GDP of a country, being transparent on how is the growth rates of a certain industry, being transparent in how you produce and how you deliver goods. I think it's just a need in a digital society where you can put the spotlight on anything and you can have different angles to it. It's very important that you are as transparent as you can be on important elements of your business. Secondly, I think financial inclusion, since we work in the financial services industry, financial inclusion is more important than ever. But financial inclusion is ensuring that people are giving the education about the financial system, and they are given the opportunity to take part and be financially included. And this is no small feat. I mean, companies contributing to this fact is something which is extremely good to put forward. And then I think there's the element of social responsibility. What we have seen in this time where it's very difficult for us to interact more physically, it's important for us to have a social responsibility for our environment, for everything that happens around us. And back to the spotlight of the digital agenda, which is at the forefront of everything that we do. This is going to be key, because unless you take your social responsibility seriously, you're not a serious contender for having employees, for having customers interested in your product, and also having partners interact with you. So I think that's going to be super important in 2021 and many years to come.
I also want to talk about some areas that you think we're going to be seeing some more concrete adoption and evolution for the year ahead. What are your predictions in that space?
So obviously, working in the financial sector, that will be my outset of it. I have lots of predictions of what will happen in music and so forth, but I'm not even going there. So I think that one of the key things that will happen is that digital identity and access to digital environments for all is going to be really key. Now, the reason why I say digital identity is because there has to be a way that we authenticate, identify, and verify who we are transacting with. And that will not only be a regional or domestic issue, it will be an issue because the way that we will transact will become even more transparent once you cross the borders of the digital frontier, where you can't see the country borders. You're transacting with anyone, anywhere, at any time. And so the digital identity and access to the environment is going to be super, super important. And I think not only in the light of the pandemic, but the substitution of cash is something that will accelerate greatly. Now, we want to ensure that the substitution of cash is not only because, you know, you're touching coins or notes or those elements, but that you are putting in place mechanisms where we can transact frictionless. And we've spoken about this so many times, but I'm really seeing that you know, the countries that are adopting instant payments, which is, you know, one of the key areas that I come from, I can really see that the substitution of cash is happening at a really rapid pace, because you have an instrument that, given all of the services you put on top of that, is behaving in the same way as cash. If you got the digital identity, if you got access to a digital environment, and you have the instant payments, well, then you have the substitution of cash. Mm-hmm. Which brings me to the next prediction, and that is, surprise, surprise, businesses will go more digital. They have to, right? Some of them are forced to do it because of the pandemic, but I think that it also goes to show that your resilient business model will only be as resilient as your ability to interact digitally, because that is what is the environment around us. You know, hopefully we will be opening up once we get into a better position. But businesses will go more digital, and they will interact both with consumers and with each other more in the digital space. In the area of how businesses get paid and pay, both to private citizens, from governments and so forth, will put a tremendous effect on the adoption of electronic invoicing across the globe. I think that you'll see an uptake of that has been unprecedented to any years prior to 2021. Mm-hmm. And you know, we've worked a lot with that, and that's been one of our key elements. And it's not only because we have a product that can do something about it, but it's because this is necessary. This is the way that businesses will transact locally, globally, domestically, regionally. It's the way to go. So that is going to see tremendous growth. And then lastly, but not least, I participated, I think it was 8 years ago, in one of the first blockchain events in Norway. And I had a prediction there, and I think I looked back at it, and I was pretty spot on, because I said in 10 years, I think it was 8 or 9 years, 10 years time, we will see an explosion in the Internet of Things, where the things that we own will also transact on our behalf. I think I was too early then, but I probably missed with a couple of years. But 2021 is going to be the year of the Internet of Things. Your watch, your car, your necklace, your whatever will interact, and it will transact. If not at the outset financially, it will at some point if it's an important device to you. And that is a space in which, you know, one needs to watch very closely.
Sure. No, it's fascinating. And this is why it's important that we get speakers coming back and back again, because as you say, although we've spoken about these areas multiple times in the past, it's interesting to see your predictions from the past become fruition. So very interesting. So you've also highlighted there a lot of really big fields of evolution, but what are the technologies that will be underpinning these areas of adoption, and also how, because it's by no means a small feat.
Well, I think believe it or not, Hannah, I used to program many years ago. I used to be a programmer, so I know what an API is, and we talked about APIs 30 years back, even more than that, when I was still programming. and we're still talking about them today. But a lot of people think that, you know, it's something new. It's not anything new, but what is new is that you have to have an API first approach in which you work internally, externally, and where everything that you do is you're transacting through APIs and you're utilizing them, you're sharing them. And I think this is one of the areas where companies that really want to understand how they can, you know, take the full effect of going digital needs to apply. It's an API first approach. Secondly, there's been a lot of talk around how services are being rendered. I think cloud is important, and cloud means the choice of how you will deploy, consume, or use a service. So in effect, it means you can either do it by utilizing your private cloud, you can do it in a hybrid fashion, and so forth. But the key of it all is to ensure that there is a focus on your ability to use, consume, and deliver services in a environment which is so geared up towards clouds. And when that is in place, the road is very it's not too far around to go to analytics. And analytics is something, you know, we have so much data, we have so vast amounts of data which are readily available. We apply to all the regulations that are there, GDPR and all of the laws that are in effect. But analytics is something which is, you know, the technology that you have behind this is truly awesome and can be truly used to combine things in ways that we didn't think were possible. So if you have an API first approach, if you are able to enhance your offering and really take the cloud opportunity, and you use the tools available to do analytics to combine your offers with what your partners, even your competitors are doing, and do put analytics on top of that, you're going to be a winner in 2021.
The problem is the more you know, the more questions you end up having, I think, in this area. So some pretty technical stuff there. So, but for the sake of time, I want to talk a bit more about your predictions, of course, and what you think will be discussed further down the line and also piloted in 2021. So what sort of adoption do you think we're likely to see?
Yeah, I think there's a lot around distributed ledger technology that is being discussed now, and there's a lot of applications to it as well. But I think in the payments space in particular, there's going to be a lot of interesting things that are going to happen utilizing distributed ledger technology in 2021. And I think more it's about how you can look at where does it bring you a distinct advantage in terms of integrating to existing payments solution, and where it is something that will provide new type of services. I don't think that we're going to see, you know, like a big bang element of someone coming up with a new revolutionary way of displacing, you know, a lot of the payment solutions that we have in the world today. But it's going to be certainly discussed how you can integrate and how you can leverage this technology. And I think there's been a lot of hype up until now, but leveraging the technology and understanding that is really going to be something which is there. Decentralized finance is also something which is really, really exciting. And it almost goes hand in hand with what I also call open finance, which is, you know, not only open banking, but looking at the whole financial environment and how both regulation and availability will drive the adoption of, frameworks of how you are more open in that aspect. It goes back to being API first, actually. And then, of course, central banks are discussing digital currencies, and I think that is going to be a big thing, which the discussion will continue into 2021.
Sure. It's really interesting and spurring a lot of discussion at the moment, especially on FinextraTV. We'll be doing a lot of interviews around that area. So on that topic of central bank digital currencies, what role do you expect the increases in value around cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum to play in the ongoing discussions and developments around central bank currencies? Quite a big question to end on, but we'll give it a go.
That's a big question. So I won't predict anything on the valuation because I'm such a poor gambler in that respect. I'm a guy who likes to dabble into how payments can be made less friction and how we can, be more smooth in how we transact in a world. So I'm not an expert on predicting those areas. What I think is sort of a little bit lost in translation is that, there's a lot of good technology out there which has been put to use in cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, Ethereum. There's tons of great adoption of technology. And then there's the valuation of the assets which are there, which, you could argue, are they valued or not? And I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. But what I think is important is that once you see that it's not only an asset, but it's something that helps transact in a frictionless way, and it has adoption, then we're talking, right? So to me, it's back to the agenda that I've been committed to for 10, 15 years. It's about removing friction. It's about adoption. It's about making services available. And I think too much of the discussion is about assets of cryptocurrencies and valuation on what that is. And so that takes away, what I find to be the interesting part. And you would say, well, I'm not a speculative guy, so I wouldn't go down that route. But I think that this is going to be very interesting if you can combine those fantastic efforts that have put into how they have utilized the technology in platforms around Bitcoin, Ethereum, and others, and how that can really be applied so that you have wider adoption of it. You need to get away from that it is actually a crypto asset that you invest in, and it has to solve some real problems.
Paul, we've fit in a lot in this interview, so we'll leave it there today. But thank you so much for sharing your predictions for the year ahead. Thank you very much.
All right. Bye-bye.